I mean, sunshine.
Moonshine.
Yeah.
And that's the opening line that will be on YouTube. We have started
Oh,
recording.
God.
Oh my God. I'm always doing this. Okay, well, let me mute myself forever. Tamiko, tell Milton to come get his kettlebell.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Hopefully, Mr. Golson can join us soon enough. Mr. Conway, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I will. Everybody stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start the meeting with the approval of the minutes of March 22nd. Seems like a lifetime ago.
I move we approve the minutes.
Madam Chair, second.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
There was something in the
Yes.
email.
Hold on, hold on, Dr. Jackson. Mr. Conway?
Yeah, does anybody know if Mr. Golson, did he get a PhD since the last meeting?
I don't know. Why?
I just want to before I say this, because I seen that it's referred to him as Dr. Golson, like at least 10 times in the minutes. And and I want to congratulate him if he got his doctorate. If he's not, I want to just point it out because he's not here. That's one thing. On page 3, I just want to add, my mother said, she always tells me, correct it. I don't want to be petty, but my name is spelled Conaway on page 3, bottom page 3. And then on page 8, I think it's Mr. Pavano and not Mr. Romano. Those are my three things. Page 8, it says at the bottom, it says Mr. Michael Romano. I think that was Mr. Pavano.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Any other discussion? Attorney Alexiadis?
You're on mute.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I was going to just point out that I believe that Mr. Barbarata is also referred to as a doctor.
Gosh.
I was not. Well, my name was misspelled also, but I assume that can be corrected. Prior to the meeting, I circulated some language for substitution regarding the description of my comments at the end. And I would appreciate that were considered.
Okay. Did you send an email with those corrections, Attorney Alexiadis?
What I did.
Okay, you might have. I've been on the road a good part of the day today, so I haven't had a chance to look at the emails.
Sometimes I think I've sent things and I haven't, but no, that's in my outbox at about 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
So that's in my sent mail folder, I should say, not in my outbox.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Dr. Jackson, did you have something?
She's muted.
Dr. Joyner? Dr. Jackson, I think you're muted.
Could we make these corrections off-site and bring the minutes back for the next meeting in the interest of time?
Yes, we can do that. Okay, so all right, so we'll do that. If you can go ahead.
How do you want us to do that? Because Dr. John, what do you want us to do? Just write it, send it into who?
You could send it into the person that does the minutes.
Okay.
You can send it with a copy to me since I'm the secretary.
Okay.
Yes, Miss Mason is now a recording secretary, so she can assist with the minutes.
Great, thank you. And so we'll review them, I guess, at our next board meeting.
Right. And Ms. Mason, if we can talk between then and now to make sure that we got that. I understand how tough it is to take these minutes. So please don't feel like anybody's, giving you a hard time. We're not. We love you.
Okay.
I should withdraw my motion.
Yeah,
Motion.
and I can
Or we
withdraw my
postpone it?
second.
So withdraw the motion.
Okay,
Right.
And Dr.
So I
Joyner, you're
would-
seconding. Mhm.
I
Yeah.
withdraw it.
I withdraw the second as well.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we go into public participation. Dr. White and Dr. Joyner.
Okay. Dr. White, I think it's important for us to for people to tell us their name, not their organization.
Absolutely. The
And-
last,
Right. And to restrict their comments to 2 minutes. However, you may finish your sentence. We don't want to be rude on either side.
agreed. I will not close a mic until you say it's time to.
Okay.
Our first speaker is Ramsey Goyle. Ramsey Goyle, you may speak.
Hello, my name is Ramsey. I'm currently an undergraduate student at Yale and an intern for the New Haven Public School Advocates. I heard that New Haven is going to be hiring new teachers to lower class sizes, and I just wanted to reiterate what a fantastic idea I think that is. I grew up in Los Angeles, and throughout my schooling, I witnessed the different effects of class sizes firsthand in the variety of schools that I attended throughout my learning. And smaller class sizes really had a large impact on my learning. Increased teacher interaction made me more motivated and allowed for one-on-one times to ask my specific questions to teachers. And with more opportunities for one-on-one interaction, I felt a greater connection to my teachers and the subject material by extension. This was an issue that really mattered to me and was one of the largest factors in actually motivating me in school, because teachers are so valuable and the lower class sizes were incredibly powerful in creating a positive impact between teachers and students. In 2011, the Brookings Institution conducted a study that found that a 32% reduction in class size increased student achievement, giving students who had smaller class sizes an achievement advantage equivalent to an additional 3 months of education after 4 years of instruction. Overall, for me, smaller class sizes allowed me to have a better relationship with my teachers, more collaborative instruction, and I'm very happy to see that this is an issue that the Board of Education is looking to pursue.
Are we allowed to comment? Sorry, are we allowed to comment after someone makes their? No, okay. Sorry, I just
No.
want to make sure.
Unfortunately, during public comment, it is only to hear from the public. There are no answers this evening. And that's just the tradition of the board. Our next speaker is Doreen Pollock.
Good
Doreen,
afternoon. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Doreen, and I'm a student in Orange, Connecticut, and I'm a member of Students for Educational Justice. I think psychologists can make a better and bigger difference than SROs in schools. And my personal experience is that I have been through things which collide with my school performance. And at my school, we don't have anyone who we can talk with about these things, which makes it harder to grow and develop in and out of school. And so I think that educating staff, parents, and students about mental health could help understand student struggles. And if we have people in school who can help students overcome their struggles, everyone benefits from a better environment. And if we have SROs in schools who are not mental health professionals, the environment for students won't get better. Thank you.
our next speaker is listed as Kirsten. Please state your full name before you begin speaking.
Hi, this is Kirsten Hopes McFadden. Hello. All right, so I have a few things I'd like to bring up. I would like to end the Wellness Wednesdays becoming Frightful Fridays. Frightful Fridays are Fridays when we receive bombshell emails after work hours. An administrator didn't know what I meant by bombshell emails, so let me explain. Bombshell emails are emails we receive on Fridays or during breaks and leave teachers wondering if administration even cares. For example, the email we received about return to in-person. And another example is a recent email that put an expiration date on ADA that was never there before. Both of these emails were given on Fridays after work hours. And what I would like to say about the ADA is all of a sudden HR has become medical professionals who can determine who is and isn't eligible for an accommodation anymore. Whether or not a teacher has received a vaccine or not is no one's business and does not negate the underlying health conditions that still exist. The vaccine does not make you bulletproof. Hopefully it will help us reach herd immunity, but people are still getting COVID after receiving the vaccine. And those with underlying health conditions are still at risk. That being said, are we just going to pretend like we're not in the middle of a pandemic? I don't see anything on the agenda about the pandemic. Many of the schools still don't have nurses. The backup to the backup doesn't have a nurse. What are schools supposed to do? Call 911? Also, many teachers believe they're getting a survey during contact tracing. There needs to be a little bit more specificity there, hard word to say. So I thank you for listening to me, and please keep us in mind and caring for us. Thank you.
Madam President, at this time, that concludes all who have raised their hand to speak.
Great, thank you, Dr. White. So next we're going to our action items, first being the personnel report by Dr. Tracy.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and good evening, board members and members of the public who may be watching or listening. First of all, it is spring break, springtime, and things are changing on the outside. I'm happy for springtime. But here we are again at another session. And after, 2 weeks or 3 weeks break from board meeting, here we are again. So I have on my personal report, I have some teachers who are retiring, and one teacher who's retiring, three of them who have resigned. I just want to say Donna Schlank. Donna Schlank has been in New Haven for years, as far back as I can remember. And she's now retired. I want to say good luck to Donna Schlank. But let me present my personal report. And on this personal report, I have Thomas Lamb, who is a graduate of Alberta's Magnus College, who we're putting forth as our chief operating. What was that? As our chief operating officer. He hails from Brantford. He served in the United States Marine Corps from 1995 to 1999. He returned to Connecticut, where he worked in the healthcare industries. Mr. Lamb has directed support services, including property and facilities management, security, emergency management, planning, design, and construction for a variety of healthcare organizations and businesses for nearly 20 years. Most recently, he served as a senior director of planning and real estate for Wartburg, a large senior care organization in Westchester County, New York. He oversaw support service operations related to development and planning, real estate, construction, lease management, space planning, building maintenance, security, emergency management, etc. He served as an executive cabinet member of a real estate infrastructure committee to the board of directors. Mr. Lamb also assisted in development and execution of the organization's strategic plan as it relates to campus operations and real estate planning. He's a wife of a teacher in New Haven and licensed foster parent. We want to thank Mr. Lamb for having applied to New Haven Public Schools. I ask that the board accepts my personal report. Thank you.
Mr. Wilcox?
I move that we approve the personnel report.
Dr. Joyner?
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Jackson and Mr. Conway?
Is there a residency clause for this position?
No.
I have a second question.
Go ahead, Dr. Jackson.
And I just want it on the record that I wish we could have had a discussion. I know that Dr. Tracy gets to do what she wants to do, but I wish we could have had a discussion and possibly known the applicants. And I'm just going to say that I'm sure this person is a great candidate. I just would have wanted to know a little bit more. It is people who have applied for this position. It is widely known, and I know of other applicants, and I'm just a little disappointed. I just wish the board could have seen the other candidates and just known what she was choosing from. I know she can do what she wants, but this is a big position. And I know that the past two people in this position have been attorneys so that's all I just want it on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Mr. Conway? You're muted, Mr. Conway.
Dr. Jackson has, she stated some of the things that I just wanted to say as well. But, I know Dr. Tracy has the best interests of the community, of the district. I also wanted to just say, I just want to make a comment about Donna Smank, who I work with. I want to congratulate her on her retirement as well. Those are my two comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Dr. Joyner?
I'd also like to congratulate Ms. Swank, great lady, and clearly a long distance runner in urban education. I'd also like to offer another comment regarding personnel, and it really adds to what Mr. Conway said. Dr. Tracy is a lifelong educator who has, in my estimation, demonstrated conclusively that she always makes decisions in the best interest of kids and staff. And we might have some difference of opinion on that, but it's not fair to say that she does what she wants. I think she does what is in the best interest of kids. Actually, if we all did what we want.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
And so I'm simply.
Hold on, Dr. Joyner. Hold on, Dr.
Point of
Joyner.
order, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, we have said that we're going to be respectful to each other. My comment, I did say that I want it on the record, Dr. Tracy, and this was, I said what I said. I don't think it's fair for another colleague to then take my comment and put a negative light on it. I just would like for that to be stricken. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I explain?
Hold on, Dr. Joyner. Point well taken, Dr. Jackson. Dr. Joyner, please wrap up your comments.
Madam Chair, I wasn't responding to anybody. I was simply stating my opinion.
Understood. Thank you, Dr. Joyner.
And my opinion is Dr. Tracy is a consummate educator, and that she
you.
makes decisions in the best interest of our students. And I was simply reiterating what Mr. Conway said. I'm sorry that my colleague took it personally. It wasn't meant for her. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on the personnel, the blue sheets, the personnel hires and the personnel report. Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Mr. Golson is still not on? No. Mr. Fiore?
Yes.
And Ms. Aruna is also not on? I don't see her on my squares.
She had to attend to something.
Okay,
You missed Dr. Jackson.
thank you. Dr. Jackson, no, I'm not done. Dr. Jackson.
I'm voting no.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, and I am a yes. And so the personnel blue sheets pass. Personnel report. I don't know why I can't find my words today. Okay, moving on to the SRO recommendation, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, the SRO recommendation, I think we've had it for now over a month. We did have a presentation from the SRO committee led by Dr. Carlos Torre. The recommendation is before you. It is just simply here for a vote. The vote is to accept the recommendation. After we accept the recommendation, Madam President, we need to then task Dr. Tracy in implementation and all the other stuff that goes along with that. So I just wanted to be clear, because I did have a discussion with some of my colleagues around, this is simply about the recommendation of the committee. We are not involved in the implementation. So I'm hoping after that, we can charge Dr. Tracy with giving us some like a timeline and how they're gonna do it. So I am moving the SRO recommendation from the committee.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jackson. Dr. Joyner?
And also say that Dr. Jackson has done an extraordinary job pushing and analyzing policy despite some of the challenges that we face on this committee.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyner.
And I love you dearly. I was at your wedding.
I know you were dancing your butt off.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner, Dr. Jackson. Finance and Operations Committee, Mr. Wilcox?
Wait, did we move it?
Do we need a
Madam
vote on
President, I
that?
think
Sorry.
we have a motion on the floor.
Yes, is there a second?
Right here, second.
I got so caught up with all the niceness that I just
Actually,
figured, let's move it on. Any discussion? Mr. Wilcox?
So just so I want to make sure that I understand, what we're doing now is that this is going to be a motion to accept the recommendations. And then what's going to lead from this is Dr. Tracy and her team will be looking at what the implementation, what that would mean, Joe, I'd assume would mean a new memorandum of understanding with the police department. And I would also assume that there's probably some policy work that needs to happen with the governance committee. So are those going to be some of the next steps?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the next steps are Dr. Tracy and her team, implementation, and the governance needs to make a policy now. So yes.
All right, thank you very much. And I know a tremendous amount of work is put on this, and it's a topic that has a lot of different thoughts around, and I appreciate the work that the task force put in on this, and also understand that there's some folks that will be very disappointed in this vote, but I would remind that the recommendations from this security task force was that we are working towards moving to where SROs will not be necessary, or they will at least be, we will have a different relationship moving forward, and hopefully everything in place before the next school year starts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
I was going to say Dr. Elliker. Mayor Elliker?
Everyone's a doctor, right? I just wanted to echo what some of my colleagues here on the board said, and congratulate Dr. Jackson MacArthur. It's a very challenging issue, and people are very passionate about the issue. And I think it's difficult to come up with anything that's going to make everyone happy, if not impossible. But I think you work very hard to find a compromise and address the concerns of many people. And a lot of this can't be fixed in a day or even a year, but we have a path forward, and I appreciate your work and leadership here.
Thank you, Mayor Elliker. And Dr. Jackson, I echo that sentiment. Thank you for all of your hard work on this and all of the other stuff you're dealing with at governance, because we've thrown a lot at you lately. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. It's a team. So you guys support, everyone has supported in their own way and have given words and all the things that governance has done. So it goes a long way. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on the SRO recommendation. Mayor Elliker,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Golson still not on, okay. Dr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Conaway,
Yes.
Mr. Fiore,
Yes.
and I am a yes, and so that motion passes. Now the Finance and Operations Committee, Mr. Wilcox.
President Rivera. hold-
Yes,
One moment, I forgot my manners. Mr. Lamb was on. I should have invited him to say a few words like we do normally with
Okay.
candidate. Could you permit me to do that so you see his
Sure.
face?
sure.
Dr. White, could you bring in Mr. Lamb? Apologize.
Already done.
Is he on? I don't see.
Yeah,
him.
he's there.
I see his name.
Oh, there he is.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Simple
I just
five.
want to say thank you, Dr. Tracy and everyone for the opportunity. I look forward to working with everybody. I know a lot of you have not had a chance to speak with me, and I hope moving forward we'll be able to get to know each other and move forward with all of the things that we do to move the district forward.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Thank you.
Simplify.
Hoorah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And welcome, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt, third time. Let's see. Let's see if it's a
All
charm.
right.
Mr.
Third
Wilcox.
time, but I'm not particularly a charm. So thank you, Madam President. We have before you several action items. I'll just mention a couple of them of note. In addition to the typical abstracts and agreements, purchase orders that you see, I'll just direct your attention that we're also voting tonight on 2 healthy food certifications. These are where these require board votes, and we're basically, well, the language is in the on the agenda there, but we've done these before, but this is the time to do our annual certifications for some of the healthy food programs that we are part of. So with that said, I'd like to make a motion, and that would be that we approve these 2 abstracts, 8 agreements, 1 purchase order, and the 2 healthy food certifications.
Is there a second? Mr. Conway,
Second.
any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the F&O items and the healthy food certifications. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Jackson? Dr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Wilcox? Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Jackson. Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
Mr. Conaway?
Yes.
Golson still not on. Mr. Fiore?
Yes.
And I am a yes, so the F&O items pass. Give me 1 second.
And that would conclude also the F&O report, because the only other major item we were dealing with is also part of the superintendent's report tonight.
Great, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Wilcox. We'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Tracy?
Okay, thank you again, Madam President. So we have been working hard on getting the writing of the ESSER 2 grant done and to be done on time for the State Board of Education. We shared the last time sections in terms of the priorities that we were looking at, or that we were mandated to look at 4 priority areas. Within those priority areas, what we have done after we last shared that was we looked at what the asks were on those sections. We understand that from the big focus group, there were a number of items that we could not possibly address all of those items, but we have plans to move them over into the ARP grant, which is the American Rescue Plan grant. So all those things that we have there that could not go on this, we are moving them over to that grant when that comes through. So we have another big writing to do. Also, in these sections, we have put directly what we are asking for, and later the dollar amounts will be attached to these sections that our CFO will do Then we have to send it into the state, the deadline coming up for next week. And then we will hear from them whether or not they accept what it is we're looking at. They gave us an advisor from the state in the name of Mike Watson. Many, like Dr. Jordan, who've been around for a while, and Larry, they should know Mr. Conway, I should say, I'm sorry, Mr. Conway, should know Mike Watson. He used to be with the district in terms of district management data teams. So he used to work under Dr. Mayer. So he's the advisor to New Haven. All the schools systems have gotten advisors from the state as we work through these grant processes. Ms. Hannons and I connected with Mr. Watson, and they appreciate and are fascinated with the things that we're doing here in New Haven, that he's actually sharing them out to other people. So without further ado, let Ms. Hannons share what the asks were. Now, let me say the dollar amount you will not see attached to those, but she'll share what the asks were in these different categories. Ms. Hannons.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. This has been an exciting, I don't know, Dr. Tracy, maybe 2-month ride from the time we found out that we were receiving these funds, and then coming before you today with our plan. As you know, we were able to listen to over 775 stakeholders, from focus groups to planning committees. We've had a wonderful turnout of all of our stakeholders, administrators, parents, students, staff members, and it's been a great, robust conversation. And as Dr. Tracy mentioned, several ideas were shared during these meetings, and we made sure to capture them as best as we can. So as we look at the highlights for priority 1, which, if you can recall, was academic supports, learning loss, learning accelerate, and recovery, we will invest our dollars in co-teachers. So you've heard one of our public participants mention the idea of the co-teachers in grades 1 to 3. We're really excited about this idea. This would allow us to lower class size and provide more targeted support to the students in the foundational years. This is critically important, as many of our students are not performing on grade level in these particular grade levels, and we know this is where they learn reading. So it's important for us to ensure that we provide the necessary supports that's needed in those areas. We also will invest in 3 college and career coordinators. Many stakeholders mentioned the need to expand our college and career opportunities for students. You'll notice in our strategic plan, it also talks about expansion of college and career opportunities. So these 3 college and career coordinators will work directly with our high schools on ensuring that we have more certification programs and more college beyond college offerings. A multi-tiered system of supports. This is critically needed as the variances between our students' performance right now is wider than it's ever been. And so we need to make sure we give students the supports that they need in order to be successful. Our K-12 summer camps, we're calling this summer a summer of fun in New Haven. And it's critically important that we really focus on fun. We want to make learning fun. We want to make the enrichment activities, hands-on activities, as fun as possible to re-engage students in the learning process. We want students to experience hiking, to play outdoors, arts and craft, recreational activities. We want to make sure that we're able to provide those opportunities for our students, so stay tuned. We just held a wonderful meeting with some potential partners with the Office of Youth, Family, and Community Engagement, and our partners were energetic. They were happy to hear that we were emphasizing fun for the summertime, and they're trying to do what they need to do in order to meet the needs of our students. So stay tuned for more information around that. Twilight School. This is something that we feel is necessary, as many students will, in our high schools, look at attending schools at a different time of the day. Some of our students have picked up jobs during the pandemic, during the regular school hours, so they may need to attend during the nighttime or evening time to earn their credits. We'll have other students who will also be trying to recover credits during this time and going to school during the regular day and in the evening to pick up a credit or two, as well as students who will be accelerating their learning as well. So we're excited about this idea of investing in twilight schools. High school credentialing programs, I talked a bit about it earlier. You do know we do already have certification programs within New Haven Public Schools, and we want to expand those offerings for our students. The Promising Practice Grants, this was targeted specifically at after listening to ideas that was presented before us from our focus group conversations and our panel, our planning committee conversation as well. There were some great ideas that teachers had on projects that they wanted to implement within their schools that may have been unique to their own school setting. And so what we will do is put aside some money in what we're calling a Promising Practice Grant. It will be centered around instructional strategies to help students move forward. It may be that pet project that someone wants to implement within a school, and they will fill out an application in order to receive funds. The funds will support materials for those students, materials for the students, as well as hourly wages. So for example, I know there was a sound teacher that had a project that was very unique to sound that they would love to implement. And so that would be someone we would say, encouraged to apply for these Promising Practice Grants. And I talked about College Before College. You've heard me say several times, we need a program which would allow our students to earn an associate's degree. And this grant will help us set up the system to ensure that we have that in New Haven Public Schools. And then extended day academies. We want to expand our extended day academies within our schools. Not every school has an after-school program. However, we recognize the need to have those wraparound supports for our students. And so we will be expanding our offerings of extended day academies, and as well as we've set aside money for leadership institutes. And these leadership institutes will help our leaders learn in a pandemic, but also for our teachers as well, as there'll be institutes focused on math, science, social studies, and other content, literacy and other content areas, the L's, SPED, all will also have institutes to help teachers improve upon their practices. Priority 2 highlights family and community connections. In this particular priority area, we thought it was important to invest in 6 care coordinators. And I just would like to remind everyone that the grant goes until June 2023. And so as we look at that, the question that Dr. Tracy repeatedly asked us was, how are we impacting our students in the here and now? Not 5 years down the road, but how are we supporting them right now, given the pandemic and meeting their needs? And so it was important to invest in 6 care coordinators. As you know, many of our students have experienced trauma throughout the pandemic, pre-pandemic even, and it's been exacerbated. And what we found is that our schools that have care coordinators find that these people are just valuable to the school population, if you will, and the school community. And these coordinators will provide wraparound services to families and students to ensure that their basic needs are being met. They will go to their homes, connect them with local agencies as well, and they will be there on the ground support for families. And this is care coordinators that we would hire, not through a local agency. Restorative coaches. As you know, we passed a new code of conduct policy that focuses on restorative practices. And so this is an opportunity for us to invest in restorative practices and let everyone across the district know that we truly do believe in restorative practices, hiring restorative coaches to provide training to schools, to principals and teachers is going to be imperative at this time. We do not want students to be suspended from school. We want to work in a restorative practice, in a restorative process, I should say, and restorative coaches will lead us there. Family academies. Overwhelmingly, we heard a need for family academies within our schools. These academies would respond to the needs of our families, provide workshops and trainings on things that they felt were necessary to help their children at home, but also have resources there, such as computers for families to use as well. Professional development on restorative practices is an area of investment for us as well. And it's important to note on the previous slide, in this slide, where you see the stars, those positions will expire June 2023. School safety and social emotional well-being of the whole student and school staff. It was good to hear the young lady talk about the psychologists and the need for having psychologists in our buildings to respond to the needs of students. We're investing in counselors, social workers, and psychologists, as well as SEL curriculum material. We've heard an overwhelming positive response from our Wellness Wednesdays and integrating SEL within our curriculum. And so we want to further embed that practice throughout our curriculum. SEL institutes will be offered for staff members as well, so that we can truly own this practice and not have it as lip service, but something that's implemented daily. And wellness opportunities for staff. It is important as we focus on our students that we also focus on our staff and provide them the supports that they also need so that they're able to feed our students adequately as well. And this pandemic has taught all of us the importance of checking on one another and making sure we're okay. In addition, on the operational side, we are investing in water bottles and filters, PPE, CO2 sensors, the control systems upgrade, and the thing that has me very excited, the conversion of our water fountains to water bottle filling stations. This is important as we maintain the safety and health of everyone. You know, if you work in a corporate office or in a university, you see the water bottle filling stations available for the adults, and we need to have it there for our staff as well, for our students as well. Remote learning, staff development, and the digital divide. So we're going to invest in a data dashboard. We have different systems and we need to make sure they're all talking to one another so that data is easily accessible for us to review and make data-driven decisions. It is very hard at this time, you know, if we want to get an attendance report, we're working Dr. Sherman like crazy, right? If we want to get an academic report from our content supervisors, we're going to them. We should be able at our own fingertips to print those reports ourselves. And so we need a data dashboard that talks to all of our systems and we'll be able to print out data reports that are useful for us. We want to invest in the enterprise level of Google. And so what that essentially means is, and you've heard us talk about, we don't want to purchase the Yugo. We want to purchase the Cadillac version of Google. What we hear from our colleagues across the state are different things that they're able to do with Google and other software products that we're not able to do, such as PowerSchool. As we just had an add-on for PowerSchool, I think that we just approved tonight. So that we can be more efficient in the use of these systems. Teacher PCs and monitors, critically important. As we inventoried our own equipment across the district, what we found is a lot of the PCs and monitors came with the buildings. So if the building was erected in 2007, it may still have that same PC and monitor. And so we need to make an investment in PCs and monitors. Headphones, document cameras as well. and Chrome tablets. I'll stop there because the Chrome tablets were really important. At first, we were investing in iPads. We found that they did not handle some of the software that we needed to load on the iPads and the Chrome tablets. They're touchscreen. They're able to handle our pre-K, K1 kids are able to handle them quite well. And so we need to invest in more Chrome tablets. And professional development for remote and blended learning. We are of the belief that we've been able to garner some really good instructional practices that we would like to continue to implement within our classrooms. And so we want to continue to invest there. Our application timeline. If we can go back, we've completed already our focus groups, executive team, planning committee conversation. Executive team has made a recommendation to the superintendent, and superintendent has submitted their recommendations. What you see in progress right now is the presentation of the ESSER 2 highlights to the Board of Ed for feedback. We started with finance and operations, and now we're here at the Board of Ed meeting. The application will be submitted April 19th, 2021. We're in the process of writing that and finalizing that. And then we'll submit the abstract for Board of Ed approval April 26th. So this is our timeline for the application. And finally,
again,
we just would like to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone for sharing their time, talent with us to improve the educational opportunities for our entire school community. So thank you.
Let me back up and say thank you, Ms. Hannons, and thank you, Ms. Hannons and her team for facilitating this process. Up to now, we feel good about the process and we feel good about what is being written. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I'm hearing that's only Simone in New Haven has gone that extensively and comprehensively in this work, which is a good thing. We do things differently. And in addition to that, let me also share that the slide with co-teachers, we're actually going to change that from co-teachers because co-teacher has a certain connotation to it. We want to change that to just say teachers. Miss Hannons is aware of this. We're just going to say 87 teachers. Currently, Mr. Ciccarello, Dave Ciccarello, and our NHFT president is working on an MOU because we know in their union clause, there's no layoff and things that she's working with the lawyers on an MOU so that people who are hiring from this grant know that at the end of the grant, that's the end of their positions, unless we're tiding them over into the ARP grant, American Rescue Plan grant, but we want to make sure those things are addressed up front so we're not left with 100-something staff members hanging on to general funds. We can't afford that. So that's going to be very, very specific to those who are coming in to service the classrooms. So again, thank you for listening. And this is the time if you have any questions or any further contribution, please let us know.
I have a quick question, Dr. Tracy and Ms. Hannons. For the summer program, are those also, and that's because I received a few phone calls from some parents, are those also going to be offered remotely, the summer program sessions?
At this time, so we're using summer camp as an opportunity to bridge the gap of trust with our families. We want to re-engage them in school, in person. We do not want to offer remote learning opportunities. We want students back in school. We want them to know our schools are safe. And so there's a lot of outdoor space at a lot of our schools that our partners are planning to utilize, but we want students in person during the summertime.
The other challenge we have too is that it's a struggle for teachers to be teaching both in school and at home. And they will tell you that straight up. It's a struggle to balance what is happening. And so we are hearing parents who are saying that their students at home are shortchanged. And on the other hand, some may say their students at school, they're shortchanged because it's a juggling act. So we're trying to set up a summer fun program for our families to want to send their children to. a different experience than a normal summer school would look like. We still also have our mandatory summer program that by law for K3 that we have to do, but we're expanding this for the whole K through 12 this summer.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tracy, Ms. Hannons. Dr. Jackson? And then Dr. Joyner?
Thank you, Dr. Tracy and this is Superintendent Keisha. I know that this, I can see so much work has gone into this, but I do have some specific questions and some comments. You answered my question about the positions that are starred, which I'm glad that that is on the record, that when they're over, we don't have the responsibility of making a way for those positions. I think that's important to be on the record. Although it does worry me that these great positions after the 2 years, what are we gonna do? So that's gonna be an issue, but we'll deal with that when it comes. As far as, and then the remote learning, I think that we should think about, until the vaccine is available to all ages, I'm not too sure how we can say to a family, you have to engage us. We should not be telling families they have to personally engage us, especially when, I'm not saying that it's not going to get lower, because I hope the age lowers. I need my kids vaccinated. But if the age is not lowered, I don't feel that we should tell parents that in order for them to engage our services, they have to send their kid in personally. During a pandemic, that's traumatic. For some people, that's going to be literally emotionally impossible. And we need, as a public school system, to offer our services remotely until all people are available to get the shot, and we are no longer in a pandemic. I realize that it is tough because, of course, you know, my children are still home. I know it's tough for the teachers, and we all have to work together and give each other breaks on some things. Like, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but forcing face-to-face engagement, I'm not too sure that I can agree with that. I think it should be an option, and the parents that want to send, do it. If they don't, we need to offer a remote option. And you could speak to that in a second. And then the second thing, I didn't hear about the tutoring. How are we going to support tutoring? Some families work, some parents work 9 to 5. They're not able to do, you know, traditional tutoring, and they may need to be doing it after 5 or on the weekends. How are we supporting that to the community?
Okay, so Dr. Dr. Jackson, thanks for your input. And we will go back and relook at this remote offering for parents. We probably will have to do some kind of survey to see that. But remember that summer programming is dependent upon teacher availability. That's one of the things we need to look at. Right now, we are trying to reach out through survey to our staff to see who would like to work in the summer program. So it may become a teacher availability issue. And certainly we don't want to have a teacher in summer school also managing remote learning sessions. So we look into that to see how feasible that is. Everything is on the table. These are just our talking points, and to get feedback from the board on our thinking process at this moment. Regarding the tutoring service, tutoring service is always there. YFCE conducts tutoring service. We have Yale University that's involved with us, and they continue to be involved doing tutoring service. So those, because this is just for this grant, there are other grants that will have a lot more. And we have the summer extended, I think it's extended school year grant that is there. So, but for this particular grant, this is what we're looking at.
So are parents able to, over the summer, engage tutoring services and able to, you know, I don't know, through, how can parents get tutors to help with the learning loss over the summer without that was my question before. Remember, I don't want to use the word. I used the word voucher and I got bombarded. I don't want to use that word. I want to use how can parents access tutoring over the summer to help with the issues and, you know, learning loss.
That will be a conversation with YFCE chief.
What's why
around YFCE chief, who will be handling a lot of those summer tutoring programs.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would also say to that point, we have our own K-8 programming that will be occurring in schools for students, as well as 9-12 programming as well. And in all programs, there will be some academic support for our students in those particular programs. So tutoring is embedded in almost everything we do, even as we're talking about the extended day academies. There will be tutorial services or someone there to provide support to our students academically.
So will all children be have the option of getting a one-to-one tutor?
I would not say one-to-one tutor. Dr. Jackson, we would not have money to support. One, we have 20,000 students. We would not be able to have.
Everyone will, right, but not everyone would do that. But there are some families where that works for their schedule. I'm just saying. And
I just would also throw out there, keep in mind, we have any of our funds that we utilize for any programs, let's say Kaplan, they go through the F&O process into the Board of Ed. So we wouldn't just, invest in dollars to give the families to let them use for someone else that may be present, but as the school system will provide those opportunities for families.
Thank you. That answered. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Dr. Joyner? You're muted, Dr. Joyner, so I don't know if you're.
Okay, I'd like to make a few points. I like to always start out with a thank you, because having done this work at just about every level, I realize how hard it is to do it when you're fully staffed. And all of our central office staffers are doing multiple jobs. And for those of you who like basketball, that's like having a team with 2 players against 5. And Miss Hannah knows that because she was a basketball star at Hillhurst back in the day. But the thing about it is that we have to, as Dr. Jackson said, and I agree with her wholeheartedly, we have to consider that we're in a pandemic context. It is unprecedented. We've never faced anything like this in our lifetime. And that determines everything that we do. And in the absence of widespread vaccinations, as well as booster shots that will deal with the variants that are now rearing their ugly heads. Well, they've been rearing their ugly heads. It changes everything. And so we have to be adaptive in a way that we've been trying to do forever. And we have to also realize that we're not just a teaching and learning institution anymore. We are transportation, food, healthcare, mental health services, what have you. And then I'd like to point out something that the prophet Larry Conaway said, that remote learning can be a tremendous asset for a number of things, even if we can get past the pandemic, or should I say, when we get past the pandemic. And I think what we ought to be thinking about is, in order to accommodate what Dr. Jackson said, is how can we enhance remote learning? In other words, to try to make it as novel, as exciting, and as dynamic as possible, but at the same time being able to reach a kid that does not know the Dolch word list for grade level. And so that we can give them that background knowledge so they can conquer other things, as well as kids who don't speak English as a first language. And at the same time, we're dealing with kids that have tremendous emotional trauma, as you indicated, before the pandemic. And it's been exacerbated by the pandemic. I've lost 11 relatives over the last year to COVID. or COVID related. And that's because most of the people in my family are poor. They don't have good medical care. And some of them didn't make good decisions in terms of trying to protect themselves against it. And as a consequence, I've lost that. And I'm a 73-year-old man, and I'm traumatized, and I've dealt with trauma all my life. So you can imagine what an immigrant kid or a poor kid in this city is feeling when they have to struggle with basic necessities and at the same time trying to get an education. The other thing I'm really concerned about our teachers, that you have to teach remote learning and in-person learning in the same week. They can't hold up under that. And when I heard Celeste Hopes, y'all call her Kirsten, I call her Celeste because I've known her longer. I'm feeling her and feeling for her. And I think another question we have to ask is that how can we lighten the load on teachers who are doing both remote and in person? Because I did some remote and I did a couple of classes at Career High School. And some of the kids checked in and checked out. And of course, I only was able to do it once. So that means I would have to adjust for the next class to make sure that they remain checked in and call them individually and so on and so forth. That's a lot for a teacher to do. And the last thing I want to say, this is not directed at the board, it's directed at the parents and the people in the community. We cannot do this without your help. Education is a call and response activity. We can make all the preparations on the board side, on the district side. But if people are not willing to do their very best to take advantage of it, then we're right back to square one. And one of the things that I used to tell the kids when I was a teacher and a principal is that it was something that Benjamin Mays said. He was a grandson of a slave. He said, when you're born behind in the race of life, you must run faster. Every single student that I've ever taught, every single person I've ever known that was born poor was willing to do the extra work necessary to climb to the top. Everybody. There are no shortcuts. You can complain all you want to about the superintendent, about the equipment, about whatever, but if you compare these schools and these resources to what I had to deal with as a poor child in North Carolina, it's no contest. And Charles Redd had the same problem in Virginia. And somebody in this room knows who Charles Redd is. And so it's important for us to help our kids understand resiliency and struggle, and that the only way that you can deal with racism and discrimination is to be better than the person that's doing it to you. I rest my case.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Joyner.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner.
Yeah, I like the idea of we are trying to be adaptive as much as we can be adaptive, right? President Rivera. And we will look into some of these things that are raised here this evening. So that's why we bring certain things to the board, so we could get your feedback, and we'll go back and look at what we need to do. But as I said before, we have to get the staff. We're planning, but many staff members do not care to work in summertime. We're even trying to see how can we incentivize them to even want to work in a summer program. So that's another thing we have to look at. Dr. Jordan, with regard to the teachers, we hear from our teachers, and we know they're bending over backwards, trying to do as much as they can do. Some are good at it, some are struggling still with what is going on. Some of them, because we've given them docu-cameras and double computers, they're able to manage both very well, but some are still struggling. So in this summer program, and in the whole program, school time, I would wish, but it's an expensive venture, that we have a teacher doing remote only and teachers doing in class only, but it's expensive to do that. Yeah. That's what we would hope for. At the high school level, that would be impossible because those are subject specific and we don't have the funds to really do double teacher in every subject area. So one could be doing remote and one doing in person. That would have been the ideal situation to make it work well. Some schools have worked it out well where because of the number of students coming back in, one teacher has the in-person kids and one teacher is doing remote. In those situations, they work very well, but it's school specific. But I do understand. My job, I want to make sure that all my students are being serviced and there's equity in servicing the students. That is our goal.
Doc, if I could just
Thank you, Doc.
add, and it is an arduous task that has been pointed out, teaching remotely and teaching in person, but I and every moment I can, I will. I just want to commend our teachers
Yes.
who have taken up the challenge. I mean, we're not
Awesome.
even getting as many. You would think we would hear a lot of teachers maybe going to the union, maybe complaining about it, talking about it. They've just decided this is something I have to do, and they are doing it to the best of their ability. And so I just want to commend them because it is
Mhm.
very difficult. We've watched in classrooms them manage, in person, online, whether it's kindergarten kids or 12th graders, and it is a challenging task. So I just want to say shout out to them and kudos to them for a great job.
Right, right.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Hannons.
so much.
Mayor Elicker and then Mr. Conway.
Just wanted to say a quick thank you to Assistant Superintendent Hannons. The Youth and Recreation Department has given me updates on the collaboration that you've got going. And I just find it really exciting, this idea of combining academics and recreation over the summer to make it fun, but also productive from an academic perspective. And I'm really appreciative of that collaboration.
Thank you. It's been a team effort.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. Mr. Conway?
Yeah, everybody's, said something. I just want to just say that I really don't think the remote model is going to go away. I'm talking about like probably the next 3 to 5 years. And I just think we just have to just sort of find a way to incorporate that into things. I want to thank Dr. Tracy and Miss Hannah Red for the work they put in there. I'm very excited about the summer fund as a start too, and just looking at some of the community organizations that I certainly hope could get involved with this, because I think they could help, carry this thing out. So I think those are the comments that I want to make. But I really don't think this this remote and hybrid situation is not going to go away. I think I think the pandemic has made us really take notice and understand that we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conway.
I think Matt has.
Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you. I'd like to echo a lot of the comments I'm hearing from my colleagues. Also glad to hear that there's going to be some reconsideration of summer remote, or definitely the idea of looking to see what the need is, having the conversations or surveying of the parents. I think one thing that would be helpful along those lines of this summer of fun is, if it hasn't happened already, circulating amongst the parents the potential dates for this. I've had questions about, they understand, they watch the meetings, they know something's coming, but they're also wanting to start to plan. As more people get their vaccinations, more people are planning some travel of some sort, and they want to be able to try to figure that out. I also like to hear the summer of fun aspects, because if it was all academics, that would probably be a bit challenging. So that's all great. One thing that I do think is great about this is that so much of this could be pilot work. I mean, since it's a term of the grant is only a couple years, but we have other monies coming in, and we're always seeking other monies, that for a lot of these things, I see it as potential of pilot work. And so I'm really hoping that the people that come into some of these positions see that this is a chance to, I mean, we're really making the case. So for instance, I noticed the 2 coaches for the restorative practices. And so that's just one little example there of, expands the good work that some people have been doing in the district for quite a while now, but it also, can help prove that further investment in these areas, maybe through grant funding, maybe through seeking some state funding or whatever, will prove results. I think this is particularly important with the new discipline policy in the student handbook and so on, I've been reminded many times that kind of work is a practice. It's not just a position, and so having that training I noticed in there, as well as some positions dedicated to it, does sound great. And I could go through the whole list and see a lot of other pilot work that we're really going to have the case to show that when you make an investment in an urban school district, good work can get done, and the students are going to be the beneficiaries of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Dr. Jackson, did you have your hand up?
I have my hand up. Yeah.
No. Dr. Tracy?
I need to say, and I need to be transparent with the board too, that what I learned writing grants in New Haven Public Schools, I had at one point 11 to 12 grants that I write and then had to administer and manage, that it takes a toll on people. I was glad to give up the Alliance Priority Grant and Title I of the others. Miss Hannons is laughing because once you write it, you get stuck with it. And you have to make sure you follow through on the purchase orders and making sure the grant is being spent down, etc. This 37 point something million, along with another one of 90 something, 94, 93 million coming right at the heels of it. We have to have a project manager that only deals with this, period. I cannot say, Ms. Hannons, you're helping to write this, so therefore you're going to manage that. She would be spending all her time doing that. And that's not her charge. Her charge is to supervise principals. Okay, so it's going to be a challenge. So I'm just putting in there that we are looking into, from the grant, to hire a project manager just to manage these two big funds. That's all we want you to do, because they have to look at the purchase order, look at the hiring, look at all of these pieces and making sure that we're drawing down the grant monies in time. And it's going to be a gargantuan task.
Dr.
Yes.
Tracy, would that be a durational project manager position until the fund is?
Until the fund is out, yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Dr. Jackson?
I think that is a great idea. That person will be specifically focused on that one huge amount of money. Any questions? That's the expert. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, Dr. Jackson, does that, Dr. Joyner, Dr. Tracy, does that conclude your superintendent's report?
That concludes my superintendent report. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move on to the students' report. Mr. Fiore, do you have a report?
Other than saying that for the majority of students that hybrid is going exceedingly well, nothing much. Some students that have chose to remain remotely have noticed kind of a lack of attention towards them, but I've told them that that's expected because a new transition, new focus area. But besides that, no, nothing really.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fiore. And so we'll move on to the president's report. I don't have a report per se, just that the student election, I'm told, is in progress. And Mr. Wilcox, can you add the information for that?
Just to inform the board that, as you probably guessed, this is already ongoing or has been going. For people that are interested, there's information right on the top level of the website for the district down in the announcement sections. My understanding from going to some of these meetings is that the school principals for all the high schools know about this. Student government group knows about this. I heard glowing information about our student board reps, Mr. Fiore and Ms. Aruna, speaking to some of their colleagues at a meeting, letting folks know what the responsibility is. So that's in process. And if people are interested, as a reminder, this is 10th graders. It's open to 10th graders and they're running for a 2-year term during their 11th and 12th grade year. So if you're interested, my suggestion is check tonight for what the requirements are, because it is ongoing. So thank you.
That's my apologies, by the way. It completely passed my mind. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Fiore, Mr. Wilcox. Okay, seeing no discussion, we'll move on to the Head Start report, Mr. Wilcox. And
I'll be brief because our meeting is coming up on this Thursday. Just as a reminder, they're in the process, the administration is in the process of interviewing candidates for the Head Start director role. This is obviously an important position, and just also as a reminder, in addition to us having to vote on this as we typically would, this is also a position that, due to the way Head Start governs their program, the Policy Council, which is made up of parents of Head Start students, also weigh in on this decision, as well as the Head Start regional office also reviews this decision. So it's an important position, and I'm certain that the district is working hard to get somebody in there. So I'll have more to report next time.
okay, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Governance report, Dr. Jackson.
I have some quick updates. One is the opt-out policy, and I think it should say opt-out support policy. We are working on a policy to support the families that have already chosen to opt out of standardized testing. We will be, and I want to clarify that this is simply about the support of families who have already opted out. We are not working on a policy for the district around opting out, because there was some confusion around that. So, and I wanted to clarify also for Dr. Tracy's, so Dr. Tracy doesn't think I'm working on something for her district like that. No, this is strictly for the population that already has chosen to opt out, Dr. Tracy. We want to have a uniform guidance to the schools on what to do with these children when, during the testing time, so that everyone is being treated the same way. Everyone has guidance on how to handle this population. So it's strictly supporting a guidance around that.
So we know, Dr. Jackson, our guidance from the state does not support opting out because it impacts the schools and the school system in general. So I just want to put that out there. Yeah.
Right. I know. Right. And that's why I wanted to clarify that this is not an opt-out policy, and the state does not support it because they need our numbers for their. So anyway, that's a whole nother issue, but this is just to support people who choose to opt out, and I am an opt-out parent since my children started school. So, and there are some schools that don't receive these families in the best light. And so even though the state does not frowns upon that, we do have people who choose this, and we want them to feel welcome, and that we are not judging them. I've never felt that way because, I don't let stuff like that bother me, but some families do. And we need some guidance so that children aren't treated differently. So we're working on that. The institutional review board update. We do have a couple of in-house folks doing research. So I just want to let you know that we do have the institutional review board, and it is up and running. Dr. Sherman is doing a good job with that. The series 6,000 policies that we want to update, I just want to just put that out there in the air to Dr. Joyner, Teaching and Learning. Apparently, a lot of these are coming out of Teaching and Learning. So we wanted to try to get those done. So we're waiting for Teaching and Learning around the 6,000 series. And then the air quality did not get added. Can I speak to that, Madam Chair? Just an update.
You're muted.
Yeah, I think that's okay to just
an
talk about it.
informational. We did discuss the air quality policy at our last governance meeting. We had the facilities folks there. Mr. Pepe, I don't know his last name. Mr. Pepe was there. And apparently with the policy, him and some other facilities people and I guess Dr. Tracy's team are meeting to go over the policy. We're going to review what's being done, what's not being done, and we will get back to you with our final review, and that should be in the next month or so. And that is my informational stuff for governance. Any questions? Thank you.
Dr. Joyner?
I'd like to know specifically, what do you mean regarding the 6,000 series?
I think Ms. Velasquez is working on that with Tiffany and her, because Tiffany I said, well, Tiffany, are we supposed to be doing it or not? Apparently, when you guys review them, then they'll come back to me, governance, to bring them to the board. So I guess we're kind of in tandem with those.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll ask Ms. Velasquez to comment on it when we do the teaching and learning report.
Sure, yep.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move on to the facility naming report.
We finally have a date.
Yay.
And Yesenia have a date of April 27th. And I did contact Dr. Tracy and Mr. Penn, because I thought that since he was over that, but he would have been, but since he's leaving, Dr. Tracy has connected the facilities naming committee to none other than Miss Tiffany Jackson. So
she's gonna get tired of you, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, I know. I text her all the time. She's so good, Dr. Tracy. Thank you for signing her to me. I really appreciate her. So she will be sending the email out, but if anybody who's on the committee is listening, it will be on April 27th. You will get the official invite within the next couple of days. So
Okay.
that's that.
Okay.
Finally getting that going.
Thank you.
Sounds like a plan.
Seeing no discussion on that, I don't see any hands raised. We'll move on to teaching and learning. Dr. Joyner.
First of all, thank you for listening. And while I have the floor, I'd also like to give a shout out to the board. A lot of people don't realize that just about everybody on this board has a full-time job. Some of you have double full-time jobs and you don't get a dime. And I don't think you would take it if it were offered because of your very nature. And I certainly appreciate you as hardworking members of this community. I had a long conversation with Dr. Tracy about teaching and learning and the idea of how we could impact the classroom and how we could reach every kid. And of course, our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, that is, as they would say biblically, is shut up in her bones. She's really obsessed with educating all children well, and particularly the poor children, the children that don't have the resources at home. So in the couple of months ahead, we're going to be putting our heads together to think about things that we can do with parents and kids that they can do off school site that will help kids get better prepared for school. And a lot of it has to do with language development. And we've touched on it since I've been, and Mr. Conaway, when we were on the committee together. There's an axiom in education that language unlocks every content area door. Every content area has a specific vocabulary, and then there's a general academic vocabulary that one has to master in order to be considered literate. And so I've been in districts where they really worked on that and got great results for the kids at the bottom two quartiles. If a kid reads a lot, if they're interested in any knowledge, it doesn't have to be the stuff that we want to teach them, but they're going to be motivated to learn that. And it's going to be fun for them. You know, if you learn how to shoot a basketball, if you're learning something about Tupac's birth and his mother's politics, then all of that stuff is going to motivate you to learn, because interest is the most powerful factor in learning. You always learn what you're interested in. And so we want to try to start to do some things that we can do systemically that will help parents understand the need to work with their children on word knowledge and on language development in multiple languages. And I'd also like to say to Ms. Conaway, we finally had a robust meeting with the assistant principals. They are the staff sergeants in the war against ignorance, and you cannot win a war without sergeants. And we have some outstanding ones, and I was particularly impressed with all of them. And I also like to count out that at different levels they have different challenges. And so when you look at what Eve is doing, what Ms. Johnson is doing over at Cross and her APs, that's a different challenge than what's going on at Riverside and what's going on in the K-8 schools. And I think we have to consider that. But they are really doing a great job. I want to hear more from them. And they're our pipeline to develop, greater leaders. We have all the resources in this district to develop the type of leaders that we need in order to run our schools, and we just have to keep at it. We will be, after I put my head together with Dr. Tracy and soon to be Dr. Velasquez, we will be coming out with something that I believe should get the city excited about how we can engage all children in learning, even beyond the school day and beyond the school year. And I just hope that we can get it done. And we have to also remember that we're in a pandemic context. It makes everything harder. And if it was hard for you before, then it's harder now. But we're still keeping our chins up and working hard and hanging together. The key is for us to turn to each other and not on each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Okay. We'll move on to the food service task group. Mr. Conway.
Thank you. I have two brief reports. The food service task committee is still we're having our ongoing agenda items with life-threatening issues. Subcommittees being worked on. We're looking at some. We're looking at some of the policies. The minutes are on the website for your perusal. We will not be having a meeting this month. We'll be meeting again next month. That's where we're at with that. So it's basically the same thing that we talked about at the last meeting, and that's the food service committee. We are, Dr. Jackson, we're really going to keep that life-threatening stuff on the agenda. So I know you asked about that last meeting, so I just wanted to assure you that that's gonna take place. So, and food services, they're moving. They had the inspection tonight. We put the food policy. We made that official. So food service is moving, and I'll have more for you at the next meeting. That's food service. Any questions? The next one is our compensation equity committee. We have one more meeting at the end of this month. We have two agenda items. One is to talk about the part-time employees, and the other one is to move a proposal to the full to F&O and then to the full board. That's where we're at, and that should conclude the compensation equity the subcommittee. And then that's where we're at with that. And those minutes again are on the website. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Dr. Joyner?
Madam Chair, I forgot to ask Ms. Velasquez to comment on the 6,000 series. Could she be permitted to do that now?
Sure.
Good evening. So there are three policies that we will be reviewing over the next 3 months. So starting next week, actually Wednesday is our teaching and learning, and we will be looking at alternate schooling, which is one of the 600 series. And then in May, we'll be looking at grading policies. And in June, we'll be looking at graduation requirements. So those are the three largest ones. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll pick them up again in the fall. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Velasquez. Okay, so we'll move on to the compensation equity is done. Citywide School Building Committee report, Mr. Wilcox.
I'll be relatively brief unless you all want me to stretch this out for a couple more hours. Be more like we're used to. But I'll just say that the Citywide School Building Committee met on April 8th. We always meet the second Thursday of the month, if I remember correctly. Couple things just to bring to your attention. One is the other materials that get posted as part of the agenda on the website is sometimes quite informative. It has, for instance, each month, the stewardship project status report about various projects in the district. So it has some more detail on some of the things we hear about, like the hot water tanks and swimming pools and various capital projects that are in process in the district. So I'll just remind the board that that exists and it gets posted with the other materials for the citywide thing. And then the other thing is just to let you know that we are coming up on several of our schools, a few of our schools rather. We're getting close to having the final closeout amendments completed and done so that these schools are absolutely completely done. It's surprising sometimes how long after something is constructed and we're all already holding classes in it, that there's still lingering details and things that get worked out between bonding companies and temperature control companies and construction companies and so on. But this includes Obama School and a couple of our other schools, Easton's, Mayo, and New Haven Academy. So those things, they're down to just final details and getting final sign-offs, and those will be officially completed. So, and then at that point, we will be moving pretty much only to stewardship because school construction, except for some projects at existing schools, will be completed. Thank you.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Okay,
Bye,
Mayor.
everybody. Thank you.
Mayor, hold on, we have to vote, Dr. Tracy.
Yes.
Some of them
Dr.
may not
Tracy,
want to leave.
we have to finish the meeting first.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Sure, yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conaway?
Yes.
Is Mr. Fiore still on? No, he's
No, he's
gone.
gone.
And I am a yes. Good night, everyone. Good
Woo-hoo!
meeting.
All right.
Night.
Au revoir.
Good night.
Good night.